Don't touch that dial. You're tuned in to the Dread Podcast Network.
Welcome to Development Hell. For every horror movie that hits V.O.D, countless others end up D.O.A. Development Hell is the podcast dedicated to unearthing these cursed horror productions. We're going to find out what went wrong, and then decide if these titles still stand a shot at the green light. I am your host, Josh Korngut. I am the managing editor of Dread Central. I am also a filmmaker in Toronto, Canada. This podcast is a proud member of the Dread Podcast Network. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to a brand new episode of Development Hell. So, usually, yes, we tackle unmade horror movies, but today, for the third time, we are doing a Development Hell review episode. Is this something that you're interested in us doing more often, less often? You can let me know. Today's review is for a very disgusting movie, the independent horror phenomenon Terrifier 3. Be warned, there may be spoilers in this episode. There's definitely going to be spoilers. To what degree, I'm not sure yet. We're going to try to keep it reeled in. Terrifier 3 is the latest chapter in Damien Leone's gorecore horror franchise. It features the menace, Art the Clown, and is famous for its increasingly shocking gore, very impressive practical effects, and a fandom that is small but mighty. I could not have found a better guest for today's episode. Joining me today is Lex Briscuso. Lex is a prolific entertainment journalist, critic, and the social media manager for Dread Presents. She has actually been helping with the Development House social feeds for a lifetime now. But most excitingly, guys, Lex is also what I'm going to call an honest-to-God Art the Clown / Terrifier influencer. I say this because you absolutely have seen the memes she's posted on Tuesdays, which is our Terrifier Tuesday. Why do we have a Terrifier Tuesday? Okay, well, people might not know this, but Dread and Dread Presents and Dread Central are actually the birthplace of Terrifier, and we're going to talk about that today. Lex, how's it going? Can you introduce yourself to the Development Hell audience?
Hi, Josh. Thanks so much for having me. Hello, everyone at Development Hell. I'm so excited to be here. The rumors are all true. I am kind of a Terrifier influencer.
Yeah, you are.
I love that description of what we do on Tuesdays. It's so great. But it really is like a religious kind of every week deal. You can find a Terrifier Tuesday post on the Dread Presents and Dread Central feeds on social. And usually what you'll find there is like a really fun, either like fan art sort of deal or some sort of cool craft that somebody made or like a tattoo or something. Just
Crazy.
really impressive stuff. And a lot of memes and funny stuff too, because obviously art is quite hilarious.
Go viral a lot. Like,
They do.
life power. Like, I still see old ones floating through all the time.
Totally. Yeah, no, they definitely like have a lot of staying power. They're just great to kind of like bring the community together and get everyone chit-chatting about Terrifier, which is really fun.
How would you say Art the Clown and you are professionally tied?
We are so professionally tied. It's like we're professionally tighter than a drum.
Yeah.
So me and Art obviously interact a lot on the social sphere, but even before that, my own little like sort of real personal connection to the Terrifier universe is that Catherine Corcoran, who is one of the actresses in the original Terrifier, one of the main actresses, you guys probably remember her from getting chopped in half upside down. She is a good friend of mine from college. We actually had several classes together. She's a good buddy. And then also, weirdly enough, in the second one, another childhood friend of mine as well, Leah Voicey, who plays the Clown Cafe girl with the guitar.
Oh, that's
Isn't
insane.
that so, Isn't that hilarious?
Iconic, actually, yeah.
It's kind of weird how like tied to Terrifier I am, both in like my personal and my work life. Very bizarre how that happens. But yeah, Leah and I used to do community theater together in New Jersey, back when I was in high school. So I have a lot of ties to Art the Clown. When I say we are tighter than a drum, it is
That
for
is
real.
the most shocking thing I've ever heard. But honestly, it shouldn't be, because I make this joke all the time. No one ever laughs, but I always say Art the Clown pays for my daily iced coffee. And it's true, because
Yeah.
like it's okay. We've never discussed this on Development Hell, but Dread Central's sister organization is Dread Presents, like horror production distribution company, who, as I said, put out the first Terrifier film. It also just happens to be, one of the biggest movies on their dossier. So, like, I don't know. It's just constantly in conversation. It's constantly being used for stuff. And it's just weird how we've been so tied to this bizarre franchise for so long. And now it's mainstream.
It's so mainstream. Like, it's kind of nutty. Like, not only is it mainstream in the sense of like that, it's killing the box office right now. It's doing better than
Crazy.
Joker 2, but it's like not even just that. It's also like seeing this third one.
Mm-hmm.
There is like this real sort of mainstream professional sheen on it, that I feel like was very apparent when I watched it. So it's like very much sort of turned this weird leaf.
Listen, is it the one that looks the best? Sure. I don't know if I'm going to say it has a mainstream sheen quite yet. And maybe we don't even want that necessarily, but I'm not yes-anding that for some reason. Well, if it's okay with you, why don't we like give a little bit of context to what the Terrifier franchise is all about? It began over a decade ago in All Hallows Eve, which I think was like an anthology, horror anthology. Is that right?
I think
Okay.
so, yes.
Have you seen it?
Like a million years ago, and I don't remember really any of it, to be quite honest with
Oh,
you.
really? Did you
Yeah.
after you saw Terrifier?
Yes.
Okay.
But like not long after, because I was so
You're
like,
like, what is this fucking
yeah, I was kind of intrigued after seeing the first. I mean, it's hard not to just like be intrigued, I think.
Yes, it is. And like, yeah, I had seen Terrifier before I started working at Dread Central. And so going into like starting to work with Dread Central, I was like, oh, this is like the Terrifier company, which is weird now. Like, and it's kind of like what we are. It's so strange.
It is, it's bizarre.
I'm glad that you're here today on this very bizarro episode.
Me too.
But yeah, then in 2016, the first film came out, Terrifier, and was like a cult hit. I think that had a lot to do with, its gore and how it was able to really push boundaries in a ways that maybe some other genre stuff wasn't at the time. Brought up your friend's death scene where she was, cut in half upside down. Say what you will about the politics of that scene, it made an impression.
Yeah.
And like I would say that scene is what put this on the map to some degree. How do you feel about that?
Definitely. I definitely think like that was really like sort of the introduction to like what this franchise could be when it came to
Mm.
extreme violence. That was sort of like the first taste, and I think people were really sort of in shock and awe that it went that far.
Oh yeah. I'm still in shock and not on the Terrifier train right away. I don't think I got on the train till this film, till Terrifier 3, and we'll talk about that down the line.
Yeah.
Uh didn't like the second one. It was just like, so I saw the first one, I was like, okay. And then I saw the second one very, very, very early, like before it was like became a phenomenon. I didn't know what to expect. And it's so gross. So I just like didn't know that was coming my way. And I'm a sensitive girl. And it was so gross. And it has the one type of violence that I cannot stomach, which is scalpings. I cannot watch scalpings because I watched Nurse Betty too young. There's a scalping in that. Don't ask. I have to tell the director about that way. But yeah, so that bothered me. And so like I was like, oh, these movies are so fucking gross and bad. And then I saw the third one and it like clicked for me. And I'm excited to talk about that a little bit down the line. I want to ask you, what are some of the other um kills from this franchise that like helped put it, in the combo?
I feel like for me, the one that really sticks out in that way is like the bedroom scene in the
Yeah.
second one. I just similarly to like what you were just saying, how you were feeling, the second one to me is so it's watching it is I think it can be classified as cruel and unusual punishment. It is
Yeah.
literally just so awful to watch and it's so long and listen, I love extreme violence. I love gore. I'm a horror girly. Like,
Mhm.
I'm a sensitive girly as well. But, like, at the same time, like, slice and dice them. Like, I'm game, But there was just something about the cruelty in Terrifier 2 that is just
Well,
so intense. It's just not like anything that I feel like we've seen in a long time. It's just so raw and unabashed.
yeah.
So,
Unapologetic 100%.
yeah. So the second one was so rough to me, and that bedroom scene to me is really
I hate
exactly
it.
what you're asking. Like, what is another scene that really put this franchise on the map? Another act of violence, and it's definitely that scene. It's just so tough to watch.
Sorry, there was someone in the hallway, and it sounded like they had a walkie-talkie, and I was very confused. And I was like, huh? Anyway, I'm gonna keep this in. Yeah, fuck that scene. That scene's nasty. And as I'm saying earlier, it has a horrible scalping in it. And then the
Yes.
scalping is followed by salt and bleach. And then it just gets worse.
It's one right after the other. It's just that's the thing of it is like it feels like violence for violence sake, which is certainly a sort of tentpole of the Art the Clown character, but there was something about the second one, and maybe it was the length of the film, the fact that it's not nearly as like steeped in comedy as this third one is. It just was so hard to stomach.
Did you like it?
The second one,
Yeah.
no.
Okay. Oh, interesting. I thought you had clicked with this franchise then, so it's interesting to hear you say that. Yeah, no, me
No,
neither.
actually, weirdly, I feel like I clicked with it in this third one as well. Like, I enjoyed the first one. Like, I think it's fun, but like, I think like when you put the two of them, or rather the three of them all up in a row, um, for me, it's like easily the one I would want to watch again is the third one.
It does. It takes what works in the first one and what works in the second one and puts it together.
Yes.
Um, it's not. So we're fucking gonna get into it. Not for me, but I think, yeah, I get it now. I think another scene from the second one that if it wasn't for the bedroom scene, there'd be a lot more conversation about it. I think I've heard it referred to as the mashed potato scene, where the friend gets doused with acid and then mashed potatoed.
But I will say, like, the second one tested me. It really did. I was like not wanting to watch. Like, and it's rare that I feel like I see violence on screen that really actively makes me not want to watch.
Oh yeah, I'm not a gore person. I'm very sensitive to it. It's not something I usually. It's not my one of my ten poles of horror. But fuck yeah, these movies. You have to be able to do that.
You do. You have to be able to meet the movies where they are, and that's always going to be like what's on the slab with these. Like, so you have to be okay with it.
I really did see them for so long as like movies that were just about pulverizing women specifically. And either the next film shifted away from that in some sense, or maybe I was always just being kind of sensitive. I don't know.
No, I feel you. I think you're absolutely right. And I think that like with this third one, what I find so interesting about the third one for me on that front is that clearly Damien Leone like heard the
Mhm.
criticisms and said, "Okay, I hear you. I'm gonna do something different." And he was like, "I'll slice and dice a bunch of dudes this time,
Mhm.
and I'll evenly distribute the gendered violence,
The
right?"
parody is yeah,
Yeah.
kids too. Like
And right, like I'm right.
I
Now
love
no one's, gonna
it's great.
be
No one's off
right.
limits. Nothing is off limits, really.
Literally. But what I think is so interesting about that is that even in doing that, he still couldn't help himself in adding certain bits of gendered violence that I feel they don't fit. They're so obvious in sort of
In the
their
third
intent and
film.
their goal.
Mhm.
Well, it's just like here's what I'm thinking of, right? In the third act, when they're in the living room and she keeps getting smacked in the head. Art
Oh,
keeps smacking her in the back of the
so
head.
funny that that's what you're bringing up. Okay, I'm listening.
In that scene, you're already brutalizing this woman's body. She's being ripped apart
Are
in
we
this
talking about
scene.
Lauren Lavera at this moment?
Yes,
Yeah.
we are. And for him to keep going back and forth in the room and smacking her in the back of the head, to me, it reminded me of the gendered violence in The Hateful Eight, which is a huge reason why I hated that movie. Not to bring it to a completely different film,
Funny.
but I think they have similar problems in that way where the gendered violence it sticks out so much that, we're already doing so much to this woman that when you include something like that, that just doesn't even feel necessarily in line with art, why do that when you could do what you're going to do to her anyway? That, like, it to me sort of feels like Damien Leone doesn't.
He's not totally like
He says he
pulling up.
understands, but he doesn't really understand what the issue is.
Or maybe there's like a certain like brattiness there, like I'm he's obviously going for like a certain kind of movie, and in that certain kind of movie there's a lot of violence against women and like just the worst like ways possible. Like think about Last House on the Left and shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I do think I heard you say it. There's like an attempt here, and that there are moments where it's not so much. Like we'll talk about the shower scene later, but like because it's a couple, it does sort of help, I think.
Yes. No, definitely. I'm not saying he missed the mark entirely, but
But
I
it's
do
still
think
here, yeah.
Yeah, I do
Well,
think that there's yeah, right. Well, I think that there's moments where, sort of the mask comes off a little bit and we're like, well, remember that we're the Terrifier franchise. Yes,
yeah. Oh
exactly.
yeah, and I think there's like maybe a bit of pride in that. Like,
Yes, I would
yeah,
agree.
yeah.
I would definitely agree.
Jump into the specifics of Terrifier 3. But to wrap up, like Terrifier as a franchise, like sounds like we were in a similar place going into number 3. Like never connected with the material, kind of like didn't like actively didn't connect with it. And then, we came into this one. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I definitely think like I came into this one like open-minded, and I think like
Mm.
it's kind of interesting that I did because I wasn't necessarily super on board with the other ones, but I think to be fair, I did see it at Fantastic Fest, and I
Yeah.
think part of that,
World
seeing
premiere.
some, yeah, world premiere, seeing something at a festival, being in a crowded theater with a bunch of people who are excited to see the film, whatever film it
Sure.
is gonna like,
Those
lend,
goggles. Yeah.
yeah, it's gonna lend to that experience. But I will say that I felt like watching it, I was not necessarily as, or I guess I should say, I wasn't shocked at how good I felt because the room keeps you that way. And so, you go into it with kind of a glasses and then you kind of have the glasses on the whole time.
Yeah, but I could not have had a more opposite experience watching Terrifier 3. I watched it at like 11 a.m. on my work computer. Like
That
Te-
is the opposite experience.
the opposite. Not only that, but like I didn't come in with an open mind, for sure. My mind was closed. And
Understandable. I probably
I
would have
mean,
felt this,
whatever, it's fine.
but I would have been the same way, I think, if I hadn't been seeing it at a
I was just
festival.
like, I was like scared. I was like, I don't want to feel like I was worried. I was like, I don't want to fucking throw up all over the place. First thing I want to talk about is the Christmas setting and that opening controversial sequence. My take on the Christmas setting is that, like, generally, maybe 90% of the film, it's just backsplash. It's really not that important. It's just kind of like vibe infusing. But in the opening sequence, which kind of felt maybe like they could have filmed it later with like more money, I don't know, really puts it to good use. Do you want to tell us a little bit about this? What is seen as a very controversial opening scene?
Yeah, so the opening scene of Terrifier 3 kind of kicks off with this like really creepy sort of Christmas Eve kind of Santa comes down the chimney sort of scenario, basically. But the Art the Clown version, obviously. And we've got pretty pivotal characters in Sienna's aunt and uncle and cousins who wake up or rather go to bed that night and kind of are woken up to being killed by Art the Clown. for lack of a better, without getting into every detail. And sort of I think the most controversial bits of it are the fact that one of the cousins does not make it. It kind of sets the scene for like the level of intensity of these kills, and also kind of like what we were saying about like no one is off limits now. We've got these two really young kids in the mix, and there's like no grace being given to that reality. It's just as brutal, we assume, and we kind of more than assume because we see sort of the aftermath of one of the children, and I know that
crazy. I
and
love
then
that scene.
and then we at least get the mother's reaction, which of course really solidifies, that something happens. But all of this is kind of, done in sort of like almost like silent film kind of version. It's got this, light Christmas soundtrack going on, a religious song. I can't remember which one exactly it was, but very much like all the Christmas music that's played in this movie, if I remember correctly, is religious Christmas music.
I didn't know that. That's crazy.
Yeah, and I think it plays into kind of what this film is setting up, which is very much like
oh my God, I love this movie.
when I'm done, I feel like you're gonna end up liking it, which I think is
No, I do like it. I do like this movie. I have a review published. It's proof.
See, there you go. I also have a review published, so we're on the books, both of us.
Okay, at the end, we're gonna have to. Did you give a star rating at the end?
I gave it like
Oh, don't tell me. No, don't tell me. Don't tell me.
I won't.
Do it at the end. We'll do it at the end.
Okay, I won't say it. But that's the general gist of the opening, and it's quite intense. It's very like, done in art style. It's quiet. It's really just playing on the music of it all.
It's silly too. Like it's not like scary. It's just not nice. It's
not nice, and it's very outlandish. Like it's
crazy.
We're coming in, guns blazing. Like we're swinging the bat when we open the door, kind of thing. It like doesn't start small.
In my very pretentious review, I refer to what Thornton is doing as bouffon. Did you ever do bouffon in university?
Oh my gosh, I'm obsessed. That's so funny.
And so and I stand by it. It's like evil, sort of like grotesque clown, and he does it so good. So
he's so good at it. And that's like part of. I mean, I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about it.
Good in it. He's getting better and better.
It's just he's the reason to watch these. I mean, among a few other things, I think Lauren Rivera is really incredible. But yeah, he is just like he's without a doubt the reason to watch it. His physical comedy is just it's
fucked
amazing,
and it just makes it so much more like queasy
and to the whole tone of it. If it weren't for his performance, I don't know that Terrifier as a franchise would be anywhere near as successful as it is.
For sure not. He's the Robert Englund of
Terrifier. He really is. Fully.
For sure. I think about that every day of my life. I think the purpose on some level for these films is to outdo each other in terms of its violence and nastiness. And I can feel this movie attempting to outdo the previous film. I feel like we might be on board on some level believing that it doesn't really on some, like it's grosser, but it doesn't necessarily upset me more.
Yes.
And I think they were really trying it with 3 kills, in my opinion, in this scene, in this film. And it's kind of a big spoiler, but maybe we could like run through them really quickly and like talk about those set pieces.
Spoilers alert.
Oh yeah, big time spoilers. In cap locks in the outline. Yeah, I don't want to talk about the first one, so can you?
No, I feel you. This one was pretty intense. And this one is like a lore scene as well. So yeah,
it is.
The first scene is the one of the 3 is when these 2 dudes, they end up in sort of this like, I believe it's like an abandoned warehouse where
it's his like lair, right?
Yeah, that him and
Curly
Victoria, curly boots. Him and it's Victoria, right? Isn't it?
I don't know. Yeah,
no, something like that. That's what we're calling her now.
The girl monster in this one.
Right. Where he and her have their little like their crazy lair, and they've been like, I feel like in like hibernation.
Totally interesting way to put it.
Yeah, like some sort of a like stasis sleep or something like that for several years at this point, because because Terrifier 3 is 5 years after the events of Terrifier 2. And so they're in two different spots. Victoria's in this like disgusting bath. That's
Horrifying.
so gross, like worse than the Saw bathroom. And the Saw bathroom is vile. Like,
It's the Shangri-La. Okay.
yeah, right, exactly. It's like the Chateau Marmont in comparison to the bathroom in this movie.
It's horrible.
It's vile and disgusting. So she's like in this bath, like all still. They're like I said, in like this weird stasis, and he's like in the attic in this rocking chair, and like he in particular looks like a doll when he's sort of in this still state. And this one dude finds him and like thinks that he's a doll at first. And of course, that doesn't go so well, and Art gets his ass and like scalps him with box cutter and like pulls his whole face off, which is pretty intense. And if I'm not mistaken, is that the same scene? And correct me if I'm wrong, Josh, but is that the same scene where Girly Boots also uses the box cutter on herself?
I think it's a little bit after.
Okay, because I feel like that was in
Oh yeah, there's some real sex violence with that box cutter earlier on. Was it box cutter or was it glass?
Something. It was
oh my god, this
one of the
gross.
one of the two, but yeah, okay. So that was either before or after. Okay.
Yeah. In that act.
It's happens in that weird lair, but yes, no, I guess not in the scalping moment. Okay. Can you believe that we can section all these out? They don't all happen at once, folks. It is a Terrifier movie. We're wall to wall violence.
Oh yeah,
okay?
They make use of the real estate in this one.
They really do. But that one is rough, and like, I mean, obviously, like rough for you, Josh, in general with the scalping, but like, in general, it's bad. Like,
it's gross.
It's horrible. It's horrible. It's like you think that like it's so funny. I kind of think back when I think of that scene, I think of like when like Art the Clown like steps on that dude's head in the first one, and it's like so like almost cartoonish, It is very like clown violence kind of thing. And silly, but it's of course gory and fucked up, and we see the practical effects of it. But it's like that times like a jillion now. Like I'm just kind of like,
yeah, it's an art form now.
It really, I feel like they feel that way. Like you said,
I feel that way.
Definitely think they're trying to one up everything they did before, and very much look at it as like, what's the craziest thing we could do that's within reason, that's far-fetched, but still you look at it and you go, yeah, like someone could do that. That's fucked up, but it's possible.
I think because the fact that they keep pushing themselves to make it worse and scarier and nastier, by the fact that they keep pushing themselves, they have found themselves like perfecting an art. They really have. Like they've accidentally like done something quite beautiful by like continuing to practice over and over again. And now I like look at this movie, I'm like, holy shit, like these practical effects are stunning. Like Oscar nominate this movie for that. Like give him an Oscar for this, really.
That would be so sick.
It would be this does okay. The fact that fucking whale movie got this award, is so offensive. This deserves it 10 times. Anyways,
it would be so sick for that. That would be very cool.
It would be very cool. You never know. I don't know where I was going with this. Oh yeah, now I'm seeing it like, like they're really accomplishing something. Something that I've been thinking about a lot is like, can I perceive Terrifier 3 as experimental cinema? So rather than a narrative film where like, a decent beginning, middle, and end, look at it like a movie where the experiment is to just create the most like effective and like disgusting gore that they can in 2 hours. And I kind of like if I look at it like that, like I find it to be succeeding quite a bit.
What I think is interesting about that is I think that that's like a very fair read of the Terrifier franchise in general, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But what I think is so kind of interesting about that read, because I would say like, I would argue that was maybe not that it was experimental cinema, like in those words, but I would say generally speaking, that was probably everyone's response kind of to the first one. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Where it's like there's no like real plot to this. We're just like here for the chase. We're
It's the
here
set
for
pieces. Yeah.
yeah, we're here to see these particular kills and how we get from point A, B, C, D.
Mhm.
But even though I did not like Terrifier 2, something that I thought was interesting about it was that it did really start to shape a narrative in there and start to create lore and start to kind of plant
Try.
yeah start try to plant the seeds for a larger story that interestingly enough as well the third one has in the background. Terrifier 3 to me is like Sienna's sabbatical year, like in a way. Like it's like, like it's like she is like finally like getting to like be healed a bit or coming to find her healing. And so she's really trying to like be low key as hell, which like I get it, like I would as
So
well.
funny.
And then she kind of gets pulled back into
Yeah.
this whole scenario by the end. And by the end of the film, I think it's very clear, plotline wise, where generally speaking, this story wants to go. It wants to bring her to hell. Like, not
Cool.
spoiler alert, but like, it's, I think like it does very much have
Cool.
some narrative tentpoles. But that being said, I think that the general gist of Terrifier 3 is not necessarily trying to hammer that like
No,
into your brain. It's like
no.
almost like if I feel like with the plotline stuff in this last one. It's like if you remember that there's like a whole like that
Fucking.
yeah, well, because Art is like kind of like a product of hell. We don't know what he is. He's like some kind of
It's
like
Greek theater for sure. Like,
yeah.
yeah,
That's actually such a great way to put it, Josh. I think that's such a smart way to like label it because it does have so many of those qualities.
like it's like that. And in the second one, I did find the writing and that sort of mythology to be very clunky, although very much like
Yes.
going for it. And this time, it feels like it's it's doing it better. It's doing it like it's like a Michael Myers movie now. It's like way more simple. It still doesn't make any
Yes.
sense, but it's okay. It's like
Like
not.
more
It doesn't
on
matter.
yeah, we're more on board with it, I think, because it's more simplified and it's kind of just like I mean, by the end of this one, it's like, okay, we know what she has to do, kind of, in order to
Yeah. Well, she doesn't fight a lot in this one, really. Like she really is like, she's a hero archetype in number two. And in
yes.
this, she's surviving if she can.
Yeah,
Like,
totally. It's kind of like if you look at it on the like the circular graph of the hero's journey by Joseph Campbell, it's like very much by this point, we're at sort of the 9 p.m. mark where the
dark.
hero returns home,
Yeah.
and has to kind of consider the lessons of the journey and
It's
the fruits of the labor of that journey.
Have you read
And
Save the Cat?
I have like a million years ago, yes.
It just correlates very much with like the Dark Night of the Soul chapter, which is funny.
Totally.
But yeah, he is adjusting quite well, Damien, I would say.
Yeah,
Very nice.
definitely. I think this one made me, like I said, like kind of almost most excited for
Mm.
the like actual story that he's trying to create. Like you said, it doesn't necessarily connect all the dots. It's not like foolproof when it comes to plot holes and things like that. I think it, could be a lot tighter, but at the same time, like the idea of where Sienna needs to go in order to like potentially end this for good
Mhm.
is kind of interesting and exciting to me. I think it could be cool to see like where this ends up going, and I think that that's because he's adjusting well to writing something that feels more like a piece of narrative writing rather than here's like a runtime in which we can kind of make sure we hit these really cool tent poles and we do
Mhm.
something of that.
Yeah, and he's there's a certain freedom that you're starting to feel with him too. Like I will say though, as like I agree with everything, and I do also like kind of love this movie, but there's almost like the narrative is weak. It just
Oh God, yeah.
it's bad.
It's
Pretty bad.
sabbatical year. It is sabbatical
But
year.
it's still better than the last movie though, and better than the
I
first
agree.
movie. So like I don't feel him pushing himself, in the writer's room. Like I feel him pushing himself with his effects and just with the feeling that he's
Agreed.
evoking. It's definitely more about just trying to make you feel, not even just showing you nastiness, but making you feel nasty for as long as he can. And like a lot of like gore movies are just gross. They don't make you feel anything. This for sure makes you feel something.
Totally. And I think you're absolutely right in that, like, effects are definitely still his priority. He's definitely still doing these movies with an effects focused brain. So it's like,
Yeah.
okay, what can we bring to the table that's going to top what we did before? How can we make it the best we can make it? And kind of how do we make a movie around that? And I think because he's doing better on the writing front, those two things collided this time. But I think hopefully practice makes perfect, that the next one might mesh them even better.
To round that thought out, I'm just going to ask you. So, can you tell us a little bit about what, is the big moment in this film? What is the big kill? The shower chainsaw scene.
Oh my gosh, the shower chainsaw scene. I was like, which one do you mean? There are so
It has
many.
to be though, right?
Absolutely, I completely agree.
Right.
It's definitely like I think it's certainly the big scene because it's crazy, but it's also I think certainly the big scene because it's such a like interrogation and condemnation of true crime, and it's such an interesting sort of like thing to kind of latch your biggest scene on to. And I think anyone who hasn't seen it, once if you're listening now, once you do see it, you'll get what I'm saying there. But basically the big shower scene is this one girl who goes to school with Sienna's brother who's in college now. She is the girlfriend of his roommate, and they are like kind of like lovey-dovey and annoying. The roommate seems to kind of like him enough, and so she's around quite often, and she's kind of become sort of lightly his friend. And so through all of that, she finds out that he was attacked by Art the Clown, who his sister is, sort of that whole scenario that he's connected to it. And she flips out because she's got a podcast, a true crime podcast with a friend. Of course she does. Of course she does. And good for her. Good for you, babe. And so, of course, she wants to interview Sienna. She wants to talk to people who are close to the podcast, or close to the murders. So she gets so hype about this. Sienna's brother is like so not into the idea, but she's the girlfriend of the roommate. So he's, tries to be kind, kind of brushes her off. And she's so obsessed with this. She's just so obsessed with this idea. And so her and the boyfriend are hanging out in the dorm one day, and they're kind of talking about her prospects with getting somebody related to these murders on the podcast. And we realize that Art the Clown has gotten into the dorms, and he's kind of like listening in the hallway.
It's so funny.
Oh, it's hilarious. The physical comedy in this scene in particular is what I think of when I praise David Howard Thornton in this film, because there's one moment where they're like chit-chatting about Art, and she's talking so like reverently about him, about Art the Clown, and the boyfriend is like, sounds like you want to fuck him. He's like, I don't want to fuck him. And he makes the most hilarious, like, sad face, and then, like, brushes her off with his hand. And it's so funny. It really works so well. And so we kind of see, like, he's aware of these people, he's heard some things they're saying. And so not too long after that, they end up in the bathroom, like the dorm bathroom. They end up in one of the showers together. They're hooking up. And all of a sudden, here he comes, chainsaw a revin, and comes to slice and dice the two of them. And it is
He does.
he does. He really does. It is so insane. The like level of brutality in this scene is so crazy. It's so like no holds barred. Like it's very much a scene where I feel it was kind of Damien Leone saying, like, remember the female violence? Here's some serious male violence. Like, we're getting, like, butthole, like, completely, like, chopped up and stuff. It's, like, really just, like, almost like the male version of the scene from the first film. Like, kind of like we're bringing that back. Like, but I can do it to a dude. You know what I mean? Like, it felt sort of a little bit kind of like that, but also at the same time, this girlfriend is here. She watches what happens, and then he gets her too. You know what I mean? After she's spoken so much about being so, engrossed by
him. Yeah.
Yeah, which is so just like the icing on the cake. It's a quite grand scene, I would say, overall.
It's fucked.
It's so fucked. I meant when I said grand, I meant
No, yeah.
like big, like it's a large,
big and fucked. I love it.
it's almost like it feels like almost like a piece of music kind of in a way, because it really is just like orchestrated the way that it just relies so much on like irony, and you know what I mean. And
do you think people are getting sick for real? You know how like they're doing this again, people are getting sick again.
I feel like, I don't know, Josh, because while I didn't necessarily feel that way, and I was eating during it, believe it or not, I know.
Were you working? You're like, I have to eat. No, you were at the premiere. I forgot.
I was at Fantastic Fest, and I was hungry as hell. It was, oh my God, it was late. It was like 11 o'clock. I had a pretzel. I had to. A girl needed to eat. But like, I will say that like in the second one, I felt a little like, not necessarily nauseous, but like
not good.
Yeah, my stomach was not feeling great. It was not feeling great. So I could see that, but I don't know about like real tried and true vomiting. Like, I think you have to have a really, really weak stomach. In that case, you have a weak stomach.
You're just sick. Like, you're just a sick person.
You're not seeing Terrifier if you have a weak stomach.
Well, it's what made the last one a phenomenon, was that like word of mouth that someone got sick. And it just felt like they were recreating it, but I could also maybe see it being real. I don't know.
I feel like they do it so much in horror campaigns nowadays, but this is the one that if, it was going to happen, it would happen for this. You know what I mean? Like, whereas with other campaigns, when they're like, people were throwing up, people were fainting, people left, blah, blah, blah. It's usually like so far from the truth.
It's just like someone's like drunk as shit.
Yeah, right. Like, they're not actually getting sick from the movie per se. There are just like other circumstances. But like,
I don't know.
This one is the only one. Yeah, it's the only one where I could see it being plausible, because other movies just don't go that extra mile.
Civilians are not seeing. There are movies like this. There are underground, like snuffy kind of gross movies. Civilians are not watching them.
Yeah, they're not. It's not. Those movies are not beating Joker 2 in the box office. Let's just put it that way. They're not being seen on a mass scale like that.
Crazy.
Imagine.
Oh, God.
No, poor girl.
Like, did you read it? Like, anyway.
We love you, Gagita.
Did you listen to Harlequin? Anyway.
Did you?
Once.
I gotta listen to it. Is it worth listening to?
No, I don't think so.
So sad. You heard it here first, Development Hell.
Like, this is not the first time they've heard this. No. Before we move into conclusions, I'm just wondering, like, is there anything else on your mind for Terrifier 3?
Is there anything else on my mind about Terrifier 3?
And do you have conclusions still?
Yeah. I don't think so, because I think we really talked about like the things that I like, that I really wanted to touch on, which was like gender violence and like, how box cutter, all of that. Pretty
That'd be
much.
a good drag king name. Box cutter? Maybe not. Okay. No, because vaginas are boxes. I forgot. I didn't think about that.
It's actually
it's art. It's like Artia the clown.
Artia the clown. We need someone to do drag Art the Clown. If like Howard Thornton's not gonna like walk around in the costume, we need somebody.
Oh yeah.
You know,
there needs to be like, like there's like the Taylor Swift drag queen that everybody knows, right? Like there's people that are like the number one.
Yes.
We need a number one Art the Clown drag queen.
And we need them to compete on a season of Dragula so that they can like really just
they should get Art the Clown as like a guest.
That would actually be so
And he
great.
just like laughs at them and stuff. He doesn't.
That would
And then
be
he kills them at the end.
That would actually be so good if he was a guest judge and then
It's the
he
extermination.
he did the extermination. Oh my god, I'm obsessed. Wow, can they pay us the big bucks?
Yeah, they should.
Wow,
It's gotta be like at least 30% of my listenership are California. These people.
they're listening.
Final thoughts on Terrifier 3. Maybe I'll start us off. I like really was very surprised by my response to this movie. It feels like, I don't know, a bunch of passionate horror freaks really perfecting an art form. And it's just really cool seeing like so many people flock to it and connect with it. It's just insane to see this mainstreaming of Art the Clown. And I think like there was probably a time where like it wouldn't have sat right with me, but I'm like really excited for these people. Like, and I'm excited. I don't know. I'm excited about these fucked up, handmade, nasty pieces of shit movies, and just don't go if you can't deal with that. You know, if
Yeah.
it's not for you, which I almost would argue is like teetering on me territory, like just don't watch it because it won't be good for you. But
right.
But also then don't be ashamed if you want to watch it. If there's a part of you that's like curious, morbidly curious, like I think what's so beautiful about these movies is that like they like totally shrug the societal shame of like curiosity on violence. Like it's not hurting anybody, you know, it's just a movie.
I think that's definitely like one of the beauties of this franchise is that it's a very like self-assured in what it is, and it's very much opening the door to everyone who wants to experience that, whether you're a regular in the world of extreme violence, you watch a lot of horror, you play a lot of horror games, things like that, or if you're someone who just wants to kind of like dip your toe. Like it's not necessarily catering to you if you're just dipping your toe. It's not going slow, but
yeah.
Right, but it's here if you want to give it a try, and it's definitely like in not in short supply, which is a really kind of, like you said, beautiful thing in a way for those of us who love horror. It's so cool to see something that isn't a studio project hitting such heights, because I feel like a lot of studio horror is so boring and
bad. Often
yeah,
just bad.
just
I love
not
it, but it's bad.
yeah, there's not a lot of originality there, and there's not a lot of
not a lot of like risk.
not at all.
It literally proves that like you cannot organically create a horror icon through the studio system because
No.
not a single, except for maybe Ghostface, but he was like a postmodern version of this, didn't come from studio. They were all independent, including art, and we haven't had one really since maybe Ghostface, but before that, the 80s, really.
Even with Ghostface and even with Scream, it's like Scream was built on the meta of it all as well. So I feel
Exactly.
like, with that, you're so self-aware anyway. You're playing in the studio's face in a way.
It's almost a different thing, yeah.
Yeah, totally. And I completely agree. Like the independent space is the best place to be able to kind of play unencumbered and be able to come up with something as just like totally batshit as art. No David Zaslav or somebody is gonna let you make an Art the Clown.
Imagine. Well, did you hear that they like some studio was trying to get him to remake one for
Yes.
and he said like absolutely no, fuck
To
you.
remake it for a wider audience. No,
and he was like, what's the point? What is the fucking point of that?
Which when I heard that, I was like, good for you, because
he's if anything, he's pulled on his own.
He's true to his
Really,
his desires and what he wants to do. And you know what? At the end of the day, you have to respect a filmmaker like that. Whether or not whether or not you connect with the art, no pun intended, but pun right there. But whether or not you connect with the art, you have to respect a filmmaker like that. And I think that that's so cool because he could have raked in money for doing something like that. But
he's going to keep getting those offers now. So.
And I hope he turns every single one of them down because he clearly doesn't need them in order to have this be the success that it already
in fact, it would hinder it for sure.
Yes. it just completely rips away what this whole thing was built on. It just is a complete, rips the face right, scalps it. It just
No.
scalps the whole thing. I just feel like it's just sort of like one of those things where, you know, at the end of the day, like you said, there is no studio that's coming up with something that just like hits like this in the horror space.
No,
It's
you
just
can't.
not.
It has to be real. And
It's
it is.
it has to be organic. It has to come from a place where there's no, in the studios everything is, a money question. And, it has to come from someone who's just, dreaming on their porch, because that's the only way that those, sort of roadblocks are
Yeah.
being pushed away.
And audiences can connect. Yeah.
Otherwise, all of those things are, in the forefront of those people's minds.
We're going to be getting some nasty mainstream horror, though. Mark my words after this.
I hope so. I hope it influences it to the high heavens.
I think it will.
I really do. And I would love to see.
I don't know.
I know, right? But I would love to see
But yeah.
that turn a little bit. I would love to see people being a little bit nastier with their horror, because I will say that that's something I really
Well, you didn't like Night Swim? Okay. Oh my God. Stephen King did. Okay. I've spoken with you. Let's get to star ratings. And I would love it if we could also admit what we did for our reviews. Okay, good. I'll go first. So mine was with Exclaim. Do you know anything about Exclaim? It's a Canadian company.
Yeah. No, I totally do know who they are.
Okay, good. Thank God. So I did it for Exclaim, and they insist on doing it out of 10, which drives me insane. So I landed on 7 out of 10 for this one. And then when I'm thinking about converting that into a 5-star system, I think I'm going to say this is a 3.5-star movie for me. And and not because it's something that's for me or that I like it, but like, I just really felt like I got it this time. Like, I think he's really like solidified what he is doing.
I literally had the exact same score. So I reviewed for next best picture, and they also do out of 10. And I also gave it a 7 out of 10.
Oh my God. That's crazy.
And I would agree. Yeah, a 3.5 on a 5-star scale, I think is good. Yes. And I would say for the same reasons. I definitely also feel like I finally like clicked into the whole thing with this one. I was definitely so much more on board watching this one than I was for either of the other two. I was very, like taking it scene by scene. I wasn't like checking my watch. I was engrossed. I was.
You were at a historic event, let's be honest.
I was. I mean,
which is very cool.
Thank you. I had a blast, and that definitely added to it. But I would say, like, even taking that out of the equation, I do feel like I did also finally kind of figure out kind of a place to be in this whole world of okay, I'm getting it. I'm getting the whole rigmarole here.
And it's kind of also cool to, on a very, 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 very micro level, kind of feel like we're a small part of it too.
I know. And I feel like I've always kind of felt that way, since I've been at Dread and everything, and like, have always kind of had like a soft spot for Dread because of that, being friends with Catherine, and it's so wild.
Speaking of Terrifier influencer, that's another one right there.
Yeah, literally. And like, so it is really sick to be here now and to, feel like, that's part of our roots, at Dread and everything. And, that if it weren't for, the early days of Terrifier, that we wouldn't be where we are with this one now, So it is sick to feel like we're part of the, the cavalry.
The ecosystem, yeah.
Yeah.
I got to interview Lauren for this, which was she did a really good job. I was really into that.
Was she lovely? She seems like such a doll.
Definitely lovely.
Oh my gosh.
And gave actually like interesting, kind of like semi-controversial, like good responses. So thank God.
I feel like she seems like the kind of person who would be great to interview. I feel like she would be really thoughtful in her responses.
And she like did my dream, which was like before I even asked, she was like, yeah, and like we made a playlist. I did my Sienna's playlist that like Damien helped with. And I was like, can you tell me all the songs? And she was like, yeah. And so now I have it as like a Spotify thing in the piece.
I love it. That's so
I love
awesome.
shit like that so much. I just want to be writing about music. Can you tell?
Writing about music is fun, so I get
it. It is fun. Lex, what are you up to in the world? Like, what are you working on? What's something that's going on with you right now?
Let's see. Well, I think by the time when is this supposed
Tuesday.
to come out? Okay, I was like, when is this supposed to come out?
Very soon.
A little bit after when this comes out, I'll have a retrospective piece about Nightcrawler coming out on Inverse. So I'm like really excited about that. That's kind of like my big thing that's in the works right now. So I'm working on that.
Cool.
And just keeping on writing. I'm all over the place. I'm freelance, so just keeping on the writing front, and yeah, continuing to be the Terrifier influencer that you know me to be. And don't even think that I will miss a Terrifier Tuesday.
Oh, you won't.
On Tuesday, you can find me on @Dread Presents and @Dread Central. There will be a Terrifier Tuesday post.
You don't need to go looking. It will just be in your feed.
It probably will, honestly, because they really do, like, Josh was not lying. They really do, like, pop off sometimes. Actually, more than sometimes, to be honest. Well, you know what? The fans are pretty talented. A lot of the times I'm highlighting fan stuff.
Yeah.
And there's just some really, really great, just talented people out there making Art the Clown stuff.
There's a fandom. I remember there's have you ever seen the, like, I think it's an Instagram account that's just watching Terrifier every day for a year or something.
Gosh, I love that.
Someone did that until watching it every day until Terrifier 2 came out, and I was like, oh my god. And they really did it. It was insane.
They really did it.
Like, that can't be good. And last question for you, Lex, where can you be found on the internet?
The best place to find me is on social media. So my handle is Nikon America, Nikon like the camera, America like the country. And you can find me on Instagram and Twitter.
Thank you so much for listening to Development Hell. If you enjoy this podcast, then please do us a major favor of leaving us 5 stars and writing a positive review. It really makes all the difference in the world. We'll see you next week with a brand new episode of Development Hell.
Thank you for listening to the Dread Podcast Network.